Hi everyone, this is David. So for this video, I just like to go through this image and point out what's a cell and what's not a cell and what should be segmented and what shouldn't be segmented. So here we have pictures of the nuclei cells that have been labeled with a fluorescent marker, and I've adjusted some of the contrast settings to make them easier to identify. And so first, let's start with some things that are really easy. So first, cells are usually circular or a little bit elliptical. So these objects, so for instance here, 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 these are all cells. Now, some things to be wary of. Sometimes the contrast isn't so great. So for instance, this cell here doesn't really have its outline, its borders outlined like most of the others do. But this one is still a cell, right? And so this should be marked. And because it's close to another cell that's right next to it, it should be marked with a separate color. So, for instance, these here, although they're a little bit lighter, these would also be marked as cells. And this object here would be marked as one cell too. Now, it might be a little confusing because you could imagine drawing a circle here and a circle here and saying that's, two separate cells. But because they have like this border connecting them, chances are this is likely one cell. So moving to the other parts of the image, here we have two cells that are right next to each other, and so these should be marked separately. So this should be color cell number 1, and this should be cell number 2. Here's a cell that's undergoing a cell division, and so when that happens, the borders of the cell become more blurry, but this should still be marked with one cell, and should try to get the entire area, even the parts that are a little bit blurry, without the clear boundaries. Same thing for this cell here. This is dividing, this cell is dividing too. Here we have 4 cells that are a little bit fainter. These should also be marked. Now, over here, we have a small area that's darker, and it looks like it has its borders highlighted, and so you might think this is a cell, but it's basically a lot smaller than every other object in the image, and so this isn't something that we would want to label as being a cell in this image. So here, and you can see this object over here, and a little bit over here by this one. These are things that should not be annotated. And lastly, you just want to highlight a couple cells that are very faint up here in the upper right corner, but they are still cells, and you can still kind of make out the outline here and an outline here. And so these should be annotated. If they're not, then they won't be in the training data set, and our algorithms will not be able to recognize these faint objects as being cells. So that's the end of video 1. Thank you very much for your help.